Welcome back to another session. I hope you're well. In today's session, I'd like to perhaps elaborate slightly on how our bodies um, use and spend energy and how this plays a part and a role in how we feel physically, how it's manifested in our subconscious, and therefore how we believe we are psychologically and mentally. In the session I covered previously, I made reference to laziness, exercise, and how both play a part and a role with regards to how we feel and whether we think we are depressed. I made reference to the fact that, historically speaking, laziness was inherent in human existence. Um, it was a way that nature, as part of trying to ensure that we were preserved, would slow things down, force us to calm down so that we don't expend more energy than we have. This refers back to the hunter-gatherer period. In the modern society today, we do not have the need to hibernate or the need to rest in our caves because it's too cold. We don't even have a requirement placed upon us to go on hunts. We do that by different ways, working, but we have technology on our side. Infrastructure, we have modern agriculture, and different ways of ensuring that we have the basic physiological needs met, and that allows us time for pursuing self-esteem and love and belonging and self-actualization. The body requires and expends a huge amount of energy. I use the analogy of a car. Many people who are car enthusiasts and who have had several varieties of cars will tell you that among certain particular cars, that there is a huge demand, consumption demand, with regards to energy. For example, there are cars that, if you were to unlock the cars, drive, come back, park the car, but forget to lock the car, the demand and the drain on the battery system will be almost minuscule. You wouldn't tell the difference. If you came back later, you could still lock the car. The battery is still intact. There are other cars, much bigger cars, and in this particular instance I refer to the Range Rovers. Yes, there have been new technologies to assist with what was historically a frustrating part for most owners, which is if you were to drive the car, come back, forget to lock the car, and leave it for a day or two, you would be, you shouldn't be surprised to come back and find that the car batteries have run out. The reason being that you've got all of these systems behind, all the ICUs and all the various electronic components that stay active, that stay alive, but do not shut down because the car has not been locked. When you lock the car, what you're signaling to the car is, I want you to shut down all functions. It would be the same as saying to the body, I want you to sleep. When you keep the car unlocked, the car doesn't know whether that has been done intentionally, so it keeps all of the systems operating. The ICUs, the various components, the interface systems, they all stay alive, and they drain energy and drain the battery life, so much so that if you were to leave the car unlocked for 2 days or over the weekend, you would need to jump start the car because it's run down the entire battery. The human body works in a similar way. Just staying alive requires a lot of energy, and I mean a lot. So whilst you might think, well, and most of us are very oblivious to how the body is designed. I used to be one of those. I've been spending more time trying to understand how the body system functions. Now, if the body requires a lot of energy, the question then becomes, where does this energy go? See, 2/3 of all the energy generated is spent on just keeping the body at an even keel. Not thriving, just at an even keel, just staying alive. 1/3 of what is left is for spending. We spend this mentally and physically, and we spend some of this at work. Now, this does not leave much, as I'm sure you can understand, for things such as socialization, exercise, play, interaction, And unfortunately, in the world we live in, as we get older, on the energy allowance we have for fun, for hobbies, for interests, for travel, for things that essentially make our life more colourful, disappears because we allocate the little energy we have left to work. You bring someone who's 7 years old, and you bring another, say 6 or 7, and you stand back and watch this young ones, and sometimes I'm surprised at how much energy they have, so much enthusiasm of life. One of the reasons for that is whatever surplus energy that they have, they spend on play, on their hobbies, on their interests. They don't have to work. Mentally, they don't have to worry about life and what's going on around them. They don't have to worry about the emotional support they need and the emotional support they need to pour into other people. And so we spend a lot of energy, and we expend a lot of energy, especially as we age. We have a lot more surplus energy the younger we are. And as we get older, our body keeps the score. And unfortunately, it appears that we must find more intelligent ways to generate energy, to conserve energy, and to deliver energy. Now, if you think about how energy is spent in the body, if you go back to what I mentioned, which had to do with the 2/3 of all the energy generated, we have organs in the body that require energy. The liver, the kidney, we have the brain, we have the heart. Each of these organs consumes a level of energy that is sometimes unbelievable when you consider how little we have, because we don't have this abundance of energy flowing through us. We have to create the energy, deliver the energy to the organs, and then spend it. The liver consumes about 27% of all the energy generated, or all the energy we have left, absent of the business of staying alive. The brain consumes about 20% of all the energy we generate. The heart consumes about 7%. And when you sum all these respective parts of the organs in the body, what you find is that there is so much energy being spent. So if you are struggling with depression, especially when we are trying to diagnose what the issue might be, or the cause, the root cause, there's a possibility that you do not have enough surplus energy once you subtract the 2/3 required just for staying alive, and the balance left. There isn't much for mental, you might say, an emotional refill. There isn't much when you subtract what's left after work. For most people, perhaps this is a way of bringing today's session to a useful close. For most people, work is a curse. Now, work in its true sense is supposed to be a virtue, but that requires an understanding of your purpose, it being a calling, or you having some interest in purpose-driven work. For other people, most people just have jobs, and people hate their working environment, which is partly why over the past 2 years, when we had the lockdown and the shelter in place, we found that people's sense of well-being and mental health increased initially, partly because most people from 7 in the morning, they are releasing cortisol and adrenaline all through the whole day. The tension, the uncertainty, the concern, the criticism, the talking behind your back that occurs in the workplace, the lack of stimulation, the lack of fulfillment, the lack of excitement at work. So much of the energy we have left is dumped into work, which is partly why we come out of work and we feel exhausted. We then supplement with substances, drugs, food, drinks, lifestyle activities to give us energy. What that simply means is, if you have a stressful job and one that is very demanding of you, by the time you've dealt with what we call basal metabolism, business of staying alive, and by the time you dealt with work, there isn't much left for you for the mental side. There isn't much for you for the social side. There isn't much for you for hobbies and interests. There isn't much left for you to pour into other people. And so that creates a spiral of depression, anxiety, worry, doubt, concern in your life. So I'll end today's session by simply saying, like a car, I have had to learn from experience that you must understand how the car functions in order to get the best from the car. You don't behave in a manner that demands more than the car can give you. Otherwise, do not be surprised if you try to start your car, your body, and it refuses to function as it should. Give the body what it needs, understand how the body functions, and the body will serve you well. The key thing is if you understand the whole concept that I shared many sessions ago about how energy is used. When we talk about the organs and how energy is spent in the body, there's a best fit line that goes through all of the organs and all of the activities we engage in. The best fit line is as follows. You have an engine. There are several parts of the body, the car, that allow you to function properly. You have a fuel and an air delivery system. That is pumped into the engine, it creates energy, and off you go. But you need opportunities to change gears, accelerate, brake, stop, sleep. Your diet and your gut function is the starting point. You want to generate more energy? Look at what you're feeding the body. Look at how the gut is functioning based on what you feed the body. Look at the supplements, the nutritional supplements you were taking. Then focus on your mitochondria. What fuel are you giving your mitochondria? I made reference to the fact that the best is ketones, comes from fat and fibers, rather than sugar, glucose, and carbohydrates. And finally, we live in a toxic environment, which will be the session I cover next. And you have to look for ways to detoxify yourself, to reduce these toxins that are creating a state where you become allergic to things, you have autoimmune conditions, you have toxins in your body and in your organs and several parts of the body, or just stored in your subcutaneous fat. There are things you can do physically to ensure you have the best possibility of eliminating any risk that your depression might be physically led. I hope today's session has been useful.